Nile Rodgers and Chic are back in the UK with the It's About Time tour. And I'm thrilled to be joined here at Drum Depot by Ralph Rolle, the drummer for Nile Rodgers and Chic. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. It's been a long year of touring for you. How's it been?
It's been, it has been amazing. We've had some great shows. We've jumped over some amazing hurdles as a band that's, 40 years old. But it's been an amazing ride. I'm very proud to be a part of it. Yeah, man.
I began the year watching you play the New Year's Eve celebrations on BBC this year, and I didn't think come December of that year I'd be sat here talking to you now, but at the end of that year.
You know what, it's so funny because I didn't think we'd be back that soon. I thought, England would be sick and tired of us. But it turned out to be a really good show. Yeah. And it seems like, your wonderful country can't get enough of us. And I'm happy about that.
Yeah, well, I think because you did the Strictly Come Dancing thing as well, it seems like there is an affinity with Chic in the UK. There's been a bond there, I think.
Well, what I'm finding is that demographically things have been widening for the band. Where you would think that a band of this age wouldn't get 21-year-olds singing the music, which is very, I'm telling you, strange. When you look out into the audience and you see kids singing your songs is an amazing thing. Yeah. It's the reason why we keep working in different markets. It's because the demographic is widening, for us, and that's a testament to the music, and how much people like what they're hearing.
Is it? What would you say it is about the music? Cause it's about time. I think first record that was new record that was put out in 26 years. I think something like that. We'll do another Chic record next year, I believe, as well. Another one. Coming out. And I've read you talk about the performance side of the shows as well, how that has evolved, and is that a key part of why you think that the band is starting to reach more and more people?
Well, again, the music is fun. That's the big thing. Yeah. People are having a good time when they hear the music, and they're having a really good time when they see the band. What you are seeing is a stage full of people who actually like each other. Yeah. And you've been in bands yourself, and all it takes is one person to screw it up for everybody. But luckily, we have a band that has the best time, and we're very, very close. Even when we're not working, we're talking to each other. And that kind of translates forward. That energy translates back to the stage, and then the synergy starts to happen between the audience and us and our technical crew and our lights, and it works out to be a really good thing.
I suppose as well for you and a lot of the other musicians in the band as well, you're playing songs which presumably you were a fan of before you were ever involved with the band as well.
What's so odd is when Nile wrote his book, La Freak, I was on tour in Japan, and they'd taken a short hiatus from the group to do a tour that I'd been doing for actually 23 years. And I'm on the train and I'm reading his book, and I don't know how I missed this. I really don't. I read the chapter about him and Bowie, and as I'm reading, I'm going, he produced the song. Yeah. So I immediately called him on the phone, and I go, dude, I sound like such an idiot. I said, dude, you produced Let's Dance. Yeah. And he just started laughing, slow laugh, So I said, yo, we got to put it in the show. It has to go in the show. Yeah. Then he says to me, well, if you learn it, we'll do it. That wasn't what I was implying. I wasn't implying me do the song, but it ended up, I ended up doing the song. Yeah. And it is one of those songs that, yes, you have grown up on, and yes, you knew all of these songs beforehand, and the audience reacts in such a way that it's amazing. It's just crazy.
And when you say you were doing the song, you mean you're singing the song, right?
I'm singing.
You sang it, and drumming.
No, I am, and drumming.
Yeah, exactly,
and playing percussion, and my nickname is the Octopus, because I'm doing 1,000 different things at once, But, it comes from playing in local bands and not having enough personnel, and someone has to cover it. Yeah. So I first started singing a note, and then a note to a passage, then a passage to a song, and then the band needed percussion. So then that's when that came in, and it just started to just end up being whatever I'm doing now, you know. And it looks easy. You're a drummer, you know exactly what I mean. But when you first start, your brain is trying to like put together exactly all these things that you're doing, and then it becomes like commonplace after a while. Yeah. You know, but I love singing. Yeah. I love singing Let's Dance. You know, right now, I am not singing because I have a polyp on my vocal cords. I don't sound like this when I usually talk. I sound like, people say I sound like, my daughter said I sound like a gangster. You know, I told her to go, I said, do the dishes, right? She said, yes. No, but my voice isn't usually like this. But when it is fine, I'll sing the song. Right now, Russell Graham, a keyboard player, singing. But I'm still doing all the hype.
That's good stuff. Yeah. No, because that's a big part of the show as well, isn't it? That's it. I want to go back, if I may, to your beginnings as a drummer, because I find your story absolutely fascinating, and the drive in which you showed from such a young age. Just talk a little bit about kind of how that came about, because I saw, you know, originally it's your brother drumming and you're sharing a room, and we're often, I suppose, you know, all musicians are a product of, you know, their upbringing and the situation around them, and for you that's directly the case because you're a lefty who plays a right-handed kit, because your brother was a right-hander and you played his kit.
You know what it was, is one day I came home and we had a small 8x10 bedroom, 2 beds in the room, and there was a drum set in the middle of the room. And I mean, for a kid that's like 9 years old, 8 years old, it's like Christmas. It's like, what is this? So my brother brought the drum set home, and he was in a band, a local band in the projects in Bronx River. And I did everything he did. Everything my brother did, it didn't matter. You know, when he used to like comb his hair a certain way, I would watch him. And, you know, when I had hair, I would comb my hair the same way. When he would, you know, do everything, I just followed. So I played drums because he played drums. And he said to me, you can play the drums, no problem, but the room is too small. Don't switch them around because you're left-handed. Just play. Sit down and play. So my ride cymbal obviously was on the right side, and I was really little, so I would just have to sit down and stretch my leg all the way out and play over here. And I would play like the Beatles. You know, I love watching Ringo because he had that little head thing. So I would do all of that. And that style just stuck. You know, I didn't decide to change it or, you know, play what is called proper or traditional. It just stuck, and it worked as I moved forward in my career. Yeah. And then one day the drums just disappeared, and I didn't know what happened. And my brother became a young father, and my mother was very, very strict. And she basically said, well, you're going to be a man now, so you need to get a job, and you need to get your own place. So the first item that was up for sale was the drums. I didn't know that until years later, what happened with the drums, but that's what happened. But the drum bug had already bit me, you know, so at that point I'm going through my entire neighborhood, and I'm scouting out everybody that had drums. You know, my friend Artie across the street, he had a 9-piece Ludwig on a, you know, he lived on the second floor. My friend Ricky Williams, he had a Rodgers kit, and my cousin had a drum set in Queens. So I was just going everywhere, playing on everybody else's kit.
Now Ricky Williams is the blind gentleman, is that right? Now, this is something that you bring into some of your clinics and things now, is something you did back then with him, was you would shut your eyes and listen to his playing?
When I teach, it's a very important aspect to get the viewer, the person that's there, to understand the importance of using their ears and how deceiving sometimes your eyes can be. So what I do is I tell the audience to close their eyes and just tell me all of the sounds that they hear. And usually it's like a vent or a car going by, but they're now realizing that they're paying attention to sounds that they never paid attention to. And I learned how to groove from listening to Ricky, because no one sounded like him. I mean, no one. All the drummers in my neighborhood, no one sounded like Ricky. I'm going, why does he sound like? How's he? And I realized it was the fact that he was blind and he was totally relying on his sense of hearing. So the relation between his hi-hat, snare, and kick meant a lot, and that's how I learned how to groove, and I try to teach people about the importance of that. So when you're in the band and you're grooving, close your eyes and you'll watch how all of the other sounds and sonically how things just change. Yeah. And I've gotten emails about people using the technique and they go, wow, I never even thought about it in that way. It is a very important thing as a musician to hone in and tune in and just close your eyes and you'll see. Yeah. It works.
When I sort of first mentioned about going back to when you started, drive was kind of the word that came to mind when I was reading your story and everything like that. We look at sort of when you lost the kit then, and then when you finally got a chance to get your own kit and you worked packing groceries to save up the money, and your mum said, if you buy the kit, I'll get a cymbal.
She made a deal with me.
Yeah.
My mother really didn't want me to be a drummer. She didn't want me to be a drummer. She knew that I was a smart kid. Like I got skipped from 7th grade. I never did 8th grade. I went from 7th to 9th. So I graduated. I just turned 17, and she felt, coming from the deep South, that having a job was something that everybody should have. Yeah. And she didn't consider being a musician a job. That was just something you did for fun. And I'm going, no. So I, like my brother, I was going to go to engineering school like he did. So my brother was an engineer. So I said, I'll be an engineer. And one day I'm in class after 4 years of engineering school. And I'm sitting in class and I just sit up and I look around and I go, what in the heck am I doing here? I hate this. I really did. And I quit. And I went and I told my mother, and when I told her, she said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to be a musician. And she paused in that very scary mom look. And I'm like, oh God, I'm going to die today. And she said to me, you know what, I think you just lost your mind. And I said, no, I'm serious. I want to play drums. I want to be a musician. She just shook her head. But I think she started to believe me when I practiced every day. Like there wasn't a day that went by that I wasn't playing on something. As she called it, banging on stuff. And finally, she said, okay, if you work and you can afford to get the drums, I'll get you cymbals. And you know how much cymbals cost. So I started getting up every Saturday and Sunday morning before the grocery store opened, and I would pack bags in the grocery store. It was child labor, but I got paid maybe like $10, $15 a day. But for a kid that's 15, 14, that's big money. Right, yeah. Back then. Yeah. So I would just, kept stacking the money, getting whatever. And since my mother didn't have a lot of money to do certain extracurricular activities, I would volunteer at like different places. Like for example, the drums were in the music store, so I went to volunteer in the music store, and I would clean up and I would do it whatever, because that's where the drums were. And then in the community center, they had a library, and that's where the books were. So I'd volunteer to just straighten up the books, because that's where the books were. So in the music store, there was a Ludwig Wieselite drum set, a clear set that had been sitting there since I had started working there. And I asked the owner, I said, did anyone buy those? He said, well, someone ordered them, but they never picked them up. And I said, are they for sale? And he said, yes, they're for sale. And he said, I said, can I buy them? He said, I'll sell them to you at a really low price. And I think it might have been like $150 or whatever, which, a Wieselite set is ridiculous now. So I saved enough money to get the drums. Yeah. So my first drum set was a Ludwig Wieselite drum set. My mother kept her word. Yeah. She bought the cymbals, and she always made me put towels on them. Yeah. Which was hilarious. But I had a drum set then, and I was 17. Yeah. It was my last year of high school. The guy on the first floor was a professional, and he heard me playing, and there was an opening for a band, and he called me out the window. He has a really thick Southern accent, and my mother knew him, and he told me to come downstairs and said, listen, there's an audition for the band. Would you like to do it? And I said, of course, but you got to ask my mother. You know, I just can't go. So he went upstairs and he asked my mother, could I go? And I was 18 then, and I got the gig, and I turned 19 on the road, yeah. So this makes 40 years doing this thing. But, you know, as I say in my classes, persistence overcomes resistance. You don't have to, you know, have the best drum set. You don't even have to have a kit. You just have to have the passion. Yeah. And the passion will drive you to make things happen that you thought could never happen. Yeah. You know, so.
And that's part of your 5 Ps as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I developed,
a little bit, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
In my master classes, my drum clinics, it's more focused around motivation. What I'd seen for many years in talking to different people that would go out to see different master classes is they were getting great performances. But when you asked them what did they learn, they weren't giving you a lot of information back, which someone who taught, you know, from the time I was a kid, kind of frustrated me because I felt like the end user should be getting more practical and applicable information as opposed to just a show, if you will. So I started going online and I started looking at different clinics, and I'm talking amazing drumming, of course, but the informational aspect of it to me was lacking, and I felt like if I put together something, I want to focus on attainable information that the end user can take with them to apply. And I realized that most of that was about motivating the person to feel, think, and act a certain way, as opposed to a lot of dexterity type of stuff. And that's where the 5 Ps came in. So I developed this thing, and it concentrates on passion, power, placement, performance, and purity. Yeah. And throughout those explanations of the 5, I give examples of things that have happened in my life. And the purpose of that, at the end of it all, is to let the person that's coming to my masterclass understand, I grew up in the projects. It was gangs, it was drugs, it was guns, it was a lot of stuff. But there's other paths that you can take. And if I can do this without a drum set, and I'm now playing professionally a year after, then what is stopping anyone in this room from attaining their goals? Yeah. That's the whole point of that 5 Ps. Very important. Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about
you
this.
You can, don't worry about
it. We're a bit pressed for time, I think. But
no end.
Just well, I'm going to go on. If you say so, I'm going to go on. I just wanted to talk about, you mentioned that there about sort of within, you know, back home and that sort of that personal development side of things. You grew up with the drum corps stuff as well, and your glances and stuff like that. I think I've read as well that may be something that eventually you'd like to kind of put back into
okay, so here's the plan. The plan is, the plan has always been to play, teach. I've taught for free for many years. When I used to work at the Apollo, if kids came while I was there, I would teach them for free. And usually there would be 8, 9 drummers, and they'd sit down, but it was for the purpose of them being in the room and seeing technical things going on and professionals doing it and hearing live music and watching the process and absorbing all of that energy. Yeah. Because when you come from my neighborhood, you don't see a lot of people that look like you doing technical, professional things. You know, so coming to the Apollo, they would see this all the time. So that's just what I did. But one of the things that I loved was drum corps. And honestly, if it wasn't for drum corps, I probably would not have learned most of the technical aspects of performing. You know, other than listening to great drummers like Harvey Mason and Steve Gadd, you know, that was important, the application. But the drum corps, the art, the form, this thing that is so great has now become too pricey. So many drum corps over the last 25 years have been closing down because they can't afford the activity. That wasn't what it was about. When I was coming up, there was drum corps everywhere. Like the Bronx had like 4, Brooklyn had like 5, you know. But because the activity, when DCI, Drum Corps International, showed up, it kind of set a standard for what drum corps should be. But it negated some of the other aspects. So, like for example, the Veterans of Foreign War, they used to have a drum corps show. That couldn't happen anymore. And then there was different circuits like DCA, and that didn't happen anymore. And then it was only DCI. And it was kind of done because the people that started it wanted it to be a mainstream sporting event that you would tune in on ESPN. You know, but what they forgot was one very important element. There's a dollar amount involved in these big teams that when someone goes to play, they get paid a lot of money, and that's an attraction. But these are kids, these are amateurs. So that didn't gel well. But still, it was slamming the local cause, the minority cause. So my goal in life, with everything that I'm doing with my other businesses, is to gain enough money to be able to start another drum corps in the inner city. Because some of the best drummers that I know that went on to other drum corps all came from the projects like me. Killer drummers. There's a kid named Tim Green who grew up in Stevenson houses that went on to play with Garfield. And he was so ridiculous, they gave him a solo in the middle of the show. But he, you know, again, from the Bronx, he was a kid. But that's what I mean. It's an activity that is important to the growth of the user. Because I can tell you, if it wasn't for me, I would not be sitting here talking to you right now. New York glasses.
You mentioned Steve Gadd there. We're sat in front of all of this beautiful Yamaha kit here. You play Yamaha, and he's, well, the reason you started out with Yamaha, kind of.
I would have to call myself a Steve Gadd groupie. I mean, I'm serious. Hi, Steve. No, when I was a kid, Steve had gotten very sick, and he had pneumonia. And from what I understand, one of his lungs, he was sick. But my friends and I knew where he lived in Manhattan. He used to live on 30th Street between 7th and 8th Avenues. So we came up with this crazy plan to just wish him well, to get well, to knock on his door, act like we're looking for a rehearsal studio, and then ask if he was there. So it's 4 of us. We're all 16, 17 years old. And we go down, we knock on the door. Someone comes, it's not him. So we said, excuse me, is this a rehearsal studio? The guy says, no, I'm sorry, it's not. And he's about to close the door, and I go, excuse me, just to be honest with you, we know Steve Gadd lives here and he's sick, and we just wanted to say get well. And he looks at all of us. I mean, we're kids. You know, none of us have hair on our faces. So he goes, well, Steve's here, and let me see if he'll come out. I'm going, okay, cool. So 3 minutes go by. The door opens up. I swear, it seemed like there was a glow behind the door. The door opens. Steve Gadd's standing there, and we're all like this. And we can't talk there. So Steve says, hello, and we all go, hello. Like, nothing comes out. So he asks all of our names, and we tell him the names, and we say, listen, we just wanted to say, we hope you get well. And he said, wow, that was really nice of you. And that's how I first met him. Not too long after that, I got called for my first recording session at Power Station, of all places. And in the next room, Steve Gadd is recording, I believe, with Bob James, Eric Gale, and Richard Tia in the next room. And there's a refreshment stand out between the studios. And when I go there, I'm getting, I don't know what I'm getting, like a tea. And he walks out. And he's standing right next to me. And I'm doing like this, and I keep going. And he looks over out his periphery, is going, why is this kid looking? So he looks at me, he goes, hello. And I said, do you remember me? And he goes, were you one of the kids that came to my house? And I went, like, yeah, it was me. So he said, well, what are you doing? Yes, I'm doing a session next door. And he asked me my name again. And from, I don't know how he remembers stuff, but from that point, he never forgot me. Never. Many years later, I'm playing now. I'm musical director for a Japanese artist. We're at SIR Studios. He's next door with Paul Simon. And most of my friends played with Paul. So we all kind of went on a break at the same time. And Steve comes out and he says, hey, how you doing? And we're talking. And he says to me, well, what drums do you play? Well, who are you with? I said, I play on anything, and I'm not with anybody. So he says, give me your number. Someone's going to give you a call. I personally thought it was just a nice gesture of kindness. The very next day, somebody from Yamaha called me, and he said, welcome to the family. And I was like, now that was cool.
Yeah.
And so wherever I can, you know, show him support, if I'm around, I'm always, you know. Yeah. So it's very weird to have his phone number in my iPhone. It's weird.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I just look at like, get the hell out of here. You know?
Still that feeling from when you met him.
No, it will never change. I will always be like a super fan of Steve Gadd. He's given us so much incredible, great music and technique and patience and power and passion when he plays. And it's never changed. You know, I just saw him in Japan and I was making so much noise. You know, Japanese people are pretty quiet. And I'm sitting right off the back of his drums so I could see everything he's doing. So the slightest thing that he would do, I would go, oh! Like, people are turning around looking at me. I'm like, yo, that's Steve Gadd. I don't even know, I honestly don't know who he was playing with. All I know is I came to see, So that's my, I'm a big fan.
Do you have a cooler story about Zildjian cymbals, or is that a more straightforward there?
No, you know what? No, but the Zildjian endorsement came by way of a guy, an incredible drummer. They used to play with Sonny Rollins. His name is Perry Wilson. And Perry is from Chicago, and he is real straight Chicago. Like, very in your face like a New Yorker. So me and Perry, I gave Perry the gig. I was playing with Little Steven, and I couldn't do it anymore. So I asked Perry if he could take my spot. He did. And we had met years ago on the road. He was playing with Levert. I was playing with somebody else. So he talking on the phone. He says, yo, man, what cymbals you play on? I said, well, again, dude, I play on cymbals. And he said, yo, come on, man, you not? He said, I'm going to Zildjian. You coming with me? So I get on the train from New York Penn Station. We go down to Boston. We go into Zildjian. And he basically just gangstered me into a Zildjian endorsement. He said, yo, y'all know Ralph Rolle? He's on TV come on, man. So that's how it all started. But it's been an incredible relationship with Zildjian. You know, Sarah's been amazing for so many years. And, you know, John and Christopher and Emily, I believe. Yeah, she's new. But everyone there is wonderful. I really love it. Yeah.
I think we better wrap it up.
We should wrap it up.
Let you go.
This is my manager.
I'm going to be in trouble.
Ann
You're going to be in
McCoy.
trouble.
Sorry, Ann, but you know me.
But it's been an absolute pleasure. So much fun for me to listen to you, and all the best for the rest of the tour. We've got a busy year next year as well.
I hope you guys can make it out.
Yeah.
I have to say this is an incredible shop, man. This shop is everything a drum shop is supposed to be. Yeah. So, like I said, I will be living here.
Yes. Well, you're welcome anytime.
Well, thank you. I'll just stay by the Yamaha.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drums
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.